Well, hi, how are you? So, I am doing this video because being a performing artist, which I love being Freddie Mercury for Kings of Queen. I love being Roger Daltrey for Love Rain. And I love doing the Aladdin stuff, my originals band. But I also have a big passion for something I've spent hundreds, if not thousands, of hours developing skills for, and that is production. So, in addition to being a guitar player and a bass player, somewhat of a piano player, uh, I'm I'm also a producer. So, in case you're wondering what a producer actually does, this video can help shine some light on it. But those who are enthusiasts for getting into breakdowns and hearing individual parts too, this could be fun for you as well. This particular project, I was hired by a returning client, which is always great. His name's John Fisher, and I'll post the link to this particular song somewhere on this video so you can listen to the song in its entirety. I'm not going to do that in this video. I just want to give you a mixed breakdown just so you can kind of see what went into it in order to bring this thing to life. So what you're looking at is a piece of software called Logic Pro, and it's great. I love it. It's my DAW of choice. I came from the Pro Tools world and made the migration, I don't know, more than a decade ago to Logic. And big ups to Mr. Eric Kreft for encouraging me to make the switch. It is night and day. I love it, but it's not for everybody. But that's the one I choose. So the way this works is when a client hires me to produce a song of theirs, they'll send me a reference track or maybe a version that they did before. And I go off of that, of course, with some notes from them as to what they want different or what their vision is, maybe even what it should sound like. The great thing about John is he just is already familiar with my work and just said, do your thing, which is always encouraging and a little scary too. So you will hear certain parts and certain notes that are familiar to you if you're familiar with my music, but that's part of being a musician is you don't just keep inventing stuff. If you have stuff that just sonically sounds great, you get to borrow from other songs you've done in the past. I'm not going to sue myself for copyright infringement, but when all is said and done and you listen to a song in its entirety, it doesn't take away from the creative part of it. It probably adds to it. All right. So what you're looking at is the entire project. And I've broken it down and I've even color coded it. And there's certain titles which you'll see on the left-hand side. So right around here, you will see the titles as to what these individual tracks are. And I'll kind of go through each one and kind of explain how it goes, and I'll isolate them and maybe even group a couple things together so you can hear them in context with each other. But it's quite a production. But I had a lot of fun doing this. It was quite a few hours, but it was totally worth it, and I'm glad that John is totally happy with it. He had some great notes, some great feedback, and really helped me kind of polish this thing and put it together to what it is now. So towards the top, I like to put in the chord progressions so that I do know where we're going, but also there are pieces of logic that allows you to use some software that'll reference off of the chord progressions and create a track for you, which I did for the piano part. I'm not a great piano player. I'd rather hire it out, but with this great piece of software, you're actually able to utilize it to produce your own stuff. So also what you're looking at is your drum track too, which it listens to not only the tempo, but you'll notice towards the top here, I actually was able to identify what parts this is. So this is the intro from bar 2 to bar 6, verse 1 from bar 6 to bar 14, all that good stuff. And so the algorithm or the AI in Logic Pro is able to develop a drum part for that. And for production, that is plenty. And you'll see it sonically, it sounds really, really good. I can hire it out, but I just want to make sure I'm not breaking the bank for my client. And this serves its purpose. So he sent me a reference track, and it's a beautiful piece. I'm going to turn it up just so you can hear it, but So you're going to notice that there's a lot of melodies I want to keep in there. Now that's not me, although scarily similar, which is probably why I picked this one. Yeah, John actually gave me the option to pick a song from his collection to re-envision. All right, but this is the song, right? In the verse, if I can skip over to where it says pre-chorus, right? I can even make it bigger. I think I'll probably increase. Yeah, pre-chorus. Skip over the chorus. All right, so we'll get back to this chorus because it's a beautiful, beautiful melody. But John challenged me to re-envision the melody, and he even sent me an idea, and we just kind of went with that. So you'll hear something similar to it later on in the song. We kept this exact melody for later in the song, but there's also stuff like the echo right there. And it's kept in one take. So the same vocalist is singing, "Why were you there? Why were you there?" And I decided to make it more of a cascade, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. But let's start with the instrumentation. Pretty simple beat, if you can hear it. So I have this as reference, but I didn't use any of the instruments. So I scrapped and started from scratch, keeping the tempo the same, just to keep the feel the same. But in terms of drum kit, pretty standard, right? But because it's an intro, I just want to make sure that it didn't sound like the verse. So the intro is more on the toms. Now in the reference track, that is not the case. Right, when you go into the verse, it's the same drum beat. So I just want to make sure that there was some variation in that. All right, and then I mentioned the piano part. I've got a piano, just a very basic chord progressions. And you'll notice it's not very prominent in the mix, if at all. It's a good springboard. And that's the thing about production, is there are going to be some things that you lay down, and then sometimes you just don't even include it in the mix. So you won't hear it as predominantly in the mix. But when you listen to a production, it's a collection of sounds too. And that's why you'll notice there's a lot of different guitar parts, as you can tell. But the bass line, I'm a bass player. I love playing the bass. So I want to highlight one of the things that I did on the bass, which I'm glad he didn't ask to kind of dial it back. But it's almost like a bass solo, I guess. I don't know, but it's definitely featured. So where is it? Where's that bad boy? I think it's this part right here. Where is it? Here? Maybe it's here? All right, well, let's try finding the song. Oh, maybe it's here. Hold on. Here. So that's a lot of fun, being able to throw it in. But that's the thing, is as a producer, you have to really not just noodle the entirety of the song, but find your spots to highlight. All right. In terms of the guitars, I've got 4 different guitar parts. You'll notice here with these dials that they're somewhat panned so that they have their own space. But together, cool. So individually, you've got guitar 1. Typically, what I'll have for guitar 1 is the chord progression. My cat's begging to get up. This is my guitar of choice right now. It's the Acoustasonic. It's the Fender Acoustasonic, which is gorgeous. It has the ability to have an acoustic tone, and then you can flip some switches, and it gets more into the electric side of things. So that's been very helpful, especially in a song like this where it has both acoustic and electric. So that's the guitar one, the chord progressions. Guitar two, in my world, is typically octave guitar stuff. So it's basically you're hitting two notes an octave apart and you're playing somewhat of a melody. And that's what this one is. And if you remember the melody on this guy, you know what I mean? So that's what I factored in. You might see my cat's tail and body. I'm going to have to move my keyboard around since he's the king of the house. But also, one thing to note too is the one is right here where the cursor is, and the guitar and bass and everybody starts on the one, but guitar two, as you'll notice, doesn't start until the two. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So guitar two, it starts on the two, which helps give it its own space as well. You know what I mean? And then you've got your guitar three, which typically for me are like these higher single note stuff. And when you think of EQ, I like to look at my instrumentation in terms of bass guitars, each occupying its own space, and a lot of producers do that. But in terms of parts and notes, I actually have them in a range of registers too. So I got my bass on the lower end. I got my guitar one right next to it. My guitar two, which is higher up the neck, and then guitar three is up on the neck. So the idea is not only an EQ, but register too, able to identify it. And then the panning helps too. Everybody say hi to Yeti. Hey, buddy. Here you go. Okay. Very good. So his role in all this is to sleep right in front of me, in front of everything. But I've done this many times. All right. So guitar four, I had... Oh, guitar three is... And if you've heard The Great Divide, that might sound familiar. And that's what I was talking about borrowing from other pieces of work, and not to, steal from yourself, but it's bring all into one world, one genre, just that brand. And then guitar four. I rarely add a fourth guitar part. So it kind of plays along with that three. So you can hear it. You have one of the parts going ba-da, 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 and then you got the other one climbing up, bum, 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 bum. And they kind of play together. So once again, if you want to hear all of them together. And we got our second part, which is the verse. Yeah, and that's something else to identify too, is getting into these susses, which is a lot of fun. That really helps bring out that A, I believe. Right, and then the idea is coming up with different parts that fit that whole mechanism of where you are on the instrument as you go from part to part, and they're different sections. So there's the verse, there's the chorus, pre-chorus, and there's the bridge. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different parts you have to come up with each of the 4 instruments, and that's just on the main guitars. Guitars 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the chorus. Cool. So that's scattered throughout, going throughout the song. I did want to touch on a couple of things. We haven't touched on the vocals yet even. But for the intro, right, when you hear it in context now, right, you've got your... All right. So the harmonics, what harmonics are, is when you don't really push down fully on the string of your instrument. You just barely touch it. But when you barely touch it, you get these really nice sounding harmonics that are the result of that. So, and if you're wondering what I'm talking about, it's these guys. So when I expand on this, I've got harmonized harmonics. Harmonized harmonics. So what that means is I'm getting harmonics on a different part of the string, so that's a different note. So that's what that is. You got this one. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Ba-da, ba-da-da. So in context, once again, to hear it, right, you've got your intro. Cool. And the only thing that's left now is this thing. It's called post chorus or chorus two, guitars to post chorus, because I use them a lot in the post choruses, which you'll see. Here's the chorus, and towards the end of the chorus is that, or after the chorus is the post chorus. So I also used it in the intro because the chords for the chorus, or is it the intro too? Yeah, they are, and that's why. But that's what the post-chorus part is, this guy. And that's in context. All right. And so based on where we are in the song, I have them replicated. But then you'll also notice that this is a harmonics left. So, panned hard left, panned hard right, just to give that chorus effect. But I added a different track for the exact same part. The reason why, and a lot of folks, they prefer to do what's called automation, where it's loud in certain parts, and then when it comes to a different part of the song, it'll automatically lower the volume or increase the volume, or other automation includes like adding reverb, taking out reverb. I like to, because I've got a pretty strong operating system that can handle a lot of RAM and computing power. So I add different tracks and I'll set the volume that way. That way I don't have to go in. If it needs to be louder, I have to go into automation and adjust. It's much easier. So to each their own in terms of processes, but that's why you'll see harmonics left and right here, but also harmonics left and right. You'll notice that there's just a very subtle difference in volume between them. And that's because there are certain parts of the song where they should be louder, like the intro, and other parts where they should be a little bit softer because the vocals are taking the spotlight. All right. There's also one last thing in terms of the instrumentation is the pre-chorus stuff. This came from John. So John was saying that he'd like to have a Carlos Santana type of guitar going through the pre-chorus, and I thought that was brilliant. So being a fan of Carlos Santana, love that Supernatural album. I mean, I listened to that album front to back so many times. The good old days. So in context, and then I added a harmony to that line. But pan to the left. And those of you who know me know that I'm a huge Avenged Sevenfold fan. They're big on dueling guitars, so I love harmonized guitars. And Sinister Gates and Zach Vengeance, some of the best dual guitarists. In my mind, they're the best, but to each their own. I do love 3-part harmony stuff, so with the Alaeddin stuff, I'm starting to throw in 3-part harmony melodies for guitars. So they're not dual guitars, but I don't know, trial, I don't know. Let me know what the actual word is. But yeah, 3-part harmonies on guitars. I incorporated a lot of it in the second album, but that third album is going to get a lot of that. I'm excited to get working on that. Anyway, but back to the song. So main vocals. I had a couple of approaches, so I wanted to have a softer approach. And John got back to me when I sent him the first cut, and he and rightfully said that the vocals aren't going anywhere. And so let me just make sure this is the one. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I have it muted. I still have it there just in case I needed it, and indeed I actually needed it, so I used it. So right. Let me just.
You can see.
Yeah.
I'm lost in a dream.
I heard the original version, and I heard a lot of that softer tone, and I kept that going all the way into the chorus.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
Right, and that's the original melody. But he said it didn't go anywhere, and so I rethought it, and I just tried my own tone and took it somewhere else entirely. Which, if you've heard the song already, and I hope you have, because you could pause it actually if you wanted to and listen now to the whole song and come back to this video, just so you can kind of hear, the vocals. But these are the main vocals in pink, the high harmonies, purple, low harmonies in a blue. I don't know what kind of blue that is, royal blue. And then I got my choir and I got my cascade. If you remember, I was talking about how the vocalist originally in the chorus sang his own. So I took it to a whole different level and separated them by actual vocal parts, so that it really does sound like it's a cascade of vocals. All right, but the difference in the vocal approach to the verse now is much stronger.
You can see I'm lost in a dream.
So that.
But I would love for this to be reality.
Throwing in that blended voice, and then when it comes to pre-chorus,
I just got to make you mine.
Right? Originally, it was.
I just got to make you mine.
Right? So, yeah, having that just kind of upped in terms of tone and approach and energy. And then we got the chorus.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
Right, so going back to the original.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
Cool. So, and of course, doubled, you get that doubling effect, especially on a chorus. Got to have that.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
Cool. Right? And then adding the high harmonies.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
And that's another thing that you learn as a vocalist. When you're singing the harmonies, you want to blend. It's extremely important to blend in execution, in terms of rhythm, syllables, and then how long you hold a note. But you don't have to, if your main vocal part is full voice or, blend, you don't have to go full voice or blend with your harmony. Just be there, be present, but you can pull back a little bit or even switch over to pharyngeal or even head voice, depending on the song. But that way you're not blowing your vocals out just to get a harmony part. It's there to support the main vocal, right?
Tiger in the night.
Full voice.
Eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
And that's the pharyngeal, right? And so in context,
why were you there?
It doesn't sound so odd, right? You always have to, that's the thing about production, is you have to trust that, everything really is there for a reason, and everything doesn't have to shine and be a spotlight. Unless it's main vocals, of course. And I'm not saying this because I'm a vocalist, but because, at the end of the day, when we were listening to a song on the radio, we start singing along, and we're not singing the harmonies most of the time, unless it's Alice in Chains or something. But you're singing along to the main, so that is the spotlight. And of course, got to do 3-part harmonies. So I got low harmonies pan to the left, high harmonies pan to the right.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine bright. Why were you there?
And I do doubles for all harmonies too, so that they really do shine so bright. All right, and if you remember, you've got that "Why were you there? Why were you there?" Right?
Why were you there?
Oh, hold on a second. There we go.
Why were you there? Why were you there?
So instead of echoing yourself in the same track, you split it up. So that's why I have these choirs. But the choirs are in their own 3-part harmonies. That's why there's 6 of them.
Why were you there?
Totally different tone, right? Into that falsetto, right? And softer.
Why were you there?
And then, so when you hear it in context with the vocals, you've got this whole thing going.
Why were you there? Why were you there?
Right? And then, of course, because I'm emo, Mr. Emo, that I added another cascade. So when you isolate, this is the last one.
Why were you there?
So I'm not doubling what's going on with this first cascade, which I titled Choir. It's a different note. It actually goes up, I believe. Everything goes up a third, I believe.
Why were you there? Why were you there?
You know what I mean? So in full context with just the vocals.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there? Why were you there? Tiger.
Yeah. So that is, and if you want to hear it with the full instrumentation,
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there? Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why don't you care? Crystal ball, tell me.
cool. All right. So that's a lot of just a couple of the other things. Where are we with the bridge? Right. A bridge. What a bridge is? It's a section of a song. Typically, it's after the second chorus, but it's more towards the that third of the song, where it's a change in chord progressions or change in groove. You don't see a lot of key changes during bridges, but yeah, it's just somewhat different. But the reason why it's a bridge is because it gets you between 2 points, and typically it's the same 2 points, a chorus 2 and then the final chorus. But the bridge,
I don't wanna be.
so it was all harmonies, just the influx of harmonies, and then
I don't wanna be. I don't wanna be a friend. I don't.
right, those call and echo. And if you're familiar with the Alaeddin stuff, I do that a lot, and I translate it into Arabic, and it's throughout the entirety of those songs. That's why there's so much time spent just on the vocals for Alaeddin, is coming up with different melodies sometimes entirely for the call and response, but then writing Arabic lyrics for those in context with the story. But it's also fun to, and it's one less thing I have to do in terms of translating and writing more lyrics or new lyrics, just to echo. Yeah, so that head voice, right? That's very, it's definitely Alaeddin Angels brand, and so I'm happy to throw these into my other productions. That way, when somebody listens to something like this, like, wait a minute, even if it's not my vocals, and I would work with the vocalist, I would probably coach them to do these sort of things, and I'm hoping that people go, oh, this is definitely an Alaeddin production. You know what I mean? It's the part of this whole thing of leaving behind a legacy. Even if you're not the voice in it, you might be the skeleton behind it or the soul behind it. I digress. But then you've got your pre-chorus, back to the pre-chorus.
I just got to make you mine.
Now this is something else too. Is I just want to make sure this last pre-chorus is not the same as the other pre-chorus, because the pre-chorus, the choir portion, or the angels, I like to call them, in the first pre-chorus so the first pre-chorus, if you'll notice, there's no choir or angels in the first pre-chorus. They come in during the cascade of the chorus. Right, and then the pre-chorus, now I bring them in the second pre-chorus since they've been introduced already. And that melody, and you realize this after, but it sounds like ba-da-ba-ba-ba. What is that song from the 70s? I can't even think of what it is, but you borrow.
Such a fate can't comprehend. Never want to forget the
Right, the ooze, and of course.
How will I know you ever my screams?
And you keep going up, right? So it's just those three notes, especially if it's a scream.
Screams.
Yeah, and you'll notice one goes down, one goes up, and one, I believe, stays where it is.
Screams.
Well, let's go in there and see what the hell's going on over here. So you've got this one.
Screams.
That goes up. And then you've got this one.
Screams.
Oh, it goes up only once. Pretty cool. So you got that dissonance, which is nice, especially for this sort of.
Screams.
And that's the one that goes down. So again, together.
Screams.
Very cool. All right. So I didn't want the same pre-chorus for the choir. I'm trying to provide a product of substance to my clients, and you can do the easy thing and just do a copy paste, which a lot of it is, especially if you're going with a pop kind of song. Then yeah, but you still want to have some sort of ingenuity, and that's part of this whole approach.
Keep on searching for the sign. Sharing love with you would be divine.
Right? So it's just going for the stratosphere, right? I don't like autotune. I just don't. I mean, I'll use autotune if I have to, but I don't like autotune. I miss those songs of the past that you can hear it's just a little bit off. It just feels real. It feels human. So, of course, I can hear that there's some fluctuation in that crazy high note. What is that? A high A, I think. An A over high C. But I just didn't want to touch it. Especially towards the end there. But in context, it's all about context when it comes to production.
Sharing love with you would be divine.
Barely noticeable because, again, the star is the vocal. I talked about how the original main vocal was this softer, melody.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright.
And then John told me, hey, let's rethink the melody of the chorus. Here's an idea where you kind of go up. And so it turned into this, right?
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright.
Yeah. And then going up on Why Were You There, right? So what I wanted to do was bring back that original melody that stayed on that same looping melody, and use it in this kind of breakdown of the chorus.
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
And then throwing in those harmonies, right?
Tiger in the night, eyes that shine so bright. Why were you there?
Cool.
Tiger in the
And then another thing too, in terms of production, is you really do want to make sure if you're having a multi-chorus thing or the last chorus, there's got to be some stuff, even if it's something like that ooh, and it's harmonized too. You got your oohs on the lows too, right? So that it has that added support. So we're familiar with this chorus. Of course, that's what's been going on for the other ones, but then now we're going into this outro chorus. Here. And then, with the bass, having that feature thing toward, in that last chorus during the breakdown that we listened to, even in that last chorus during the outro, there's a lot of the higher note stuff that's being added in, which, and finding those spots where there are no vocals. And then having these on repeat, which is not in the song, because you'll notice the song ended, kind of fades out in the reference track. So I had this idea to have that last, ascending thing. Props to John and his writing. He had that in there, but to have it kind of looped. And that's it. That's the song. Tiger in the Night by Mr. John Fisher. Very talented. I am honored to have lent my vocals even to this, but to even, for him to entrusting the production of this song to me. I'm very honored. I love the song. It was stuck in my head. Still stuck in my head. It's going to be stuck in my head as the day goes on, perhaps as the week goes on. And I hope it's stuck in your head. I hope you guys had fun watching and listening to this and learning about production. And maybe it's for you. Maybe this is something you'd like to dive into. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot of hours, especially with the shortcuts, developing your processes, developing your templates, so that you have a workflow that is easy, so you're not always rebuilding. You end up coming up with this workflow that works for you and templates that you can use in most of the productions that you bring on. But it is a very rewarding thing to hear something from the beginning and work your way towards building something that is your own, still though keeping a mindful eye as to what your client is looking for. All right, so go ahead and listen to that song. It's called Tiger in the Night, and share it. Share it with all your buddies. Share it with all your friends, and support John. He's awesome. He's got some great songs on his YouTube channel that you should check out too. Hope you enjoy this. Talk to you soon. Take care now.